Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Okay. How is everybody? Boy, what a day, huh? What a week. Boy, if you've been following the Karen Read case and you step out into the true crime YouTube arena, seems like everybody's convinced that Jennifer McCabe was so destroyed on cross because Alan Jackson yelled and clapped his hands. I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? So today I thought we'd look at, that was not my impression of the cross. And of course, in the beginning earlier in the week, there was a report that came out about a meeting with the judge. Now, of course, we watched the courtroom be cleared out, and we didn't know why, and they were gone for a while. And we got reports that the Reeds and the O'Keefes were meeting in judge's chamber. And we thought that maybe there was some kind of either physical, verbal exchange between the two families, or between a member of the victim's family, the O'Keefe family, and Karen Read. So we didn't know. But then we got this report from X. Now, I don't know if this is true, but thought I would just read it briefly. So, for those of you wondering why the judge called a closed meeting with the O'Keefe family, here's the best explanation I could find from a courtroom reporter, a real one. Karen's dad was having a coronary because Jennifer McCabe stood her ground with Alan's stutter and fumble cross. The 11 a.m. delay wasn't about motions or logistics. It was about babysitting grown adults who can't behave in a courtroom. Judge Canoni was forced to drag the Reed family and their band of courtroom groupies into a private tongue lashing after reports surfaced of them mouthing off to the O'Keefe family. But the real issue, Bill Reed reportedly had his own Karen moment, going full meltdown and screaming at Attorney Jackson to do his job. and bring Jennifer McCabe to her knees like he said he would. You promised my family, my daughter, my murderer's daughter, that you would bring this innocent soccer mom to her knees to get my killer daughter off. That's how I see that. So while the defense spins tales of conspiracies and cover-ups, their own side is melting down in real time, disrespecting the court, harassing victims' families, and throwing tantrums when their fantasy starts falling apart. And we also saw Karen Reed has gotten a real lesson in innocence fraud, which is whatever the strongest pieces of evidence is, you just negate it. If it's a confession, it's a false confession, even if it's 5 people all telling the same similar stories in minute detail, it's a false confessions. If it is DNA, it's been corrupted. If it's or bad forensic science, you can listen to my interview on this channel, the wrongful conviction of forensic science, where I talk to a forensic scientist about innocence fraud and the demonization of forensic science in the wrongful conviction movement. But here she is saying if it's eyewitness testimony, it's not reliable. So here she is. Here's Karen Reed coming out of court.
All right, AJ, it's perfect. Have a good weekend, bud. Happens to the best of us.
Then what do you think the
I
jury
think
thought?
that's the Jen McCabe impeachment material. It's voluminous.
Yeah. What do you think the jury thought of Jen McCabe?
Anyone with common sense would think of Jen McCabe, I hope.
Who's the mastermind behind this? You guys have pointed to Albert, but she certainly spent a lot of time on her in terms of her role in this.
But it's always inconsistent. She's not consistent, so
So she can't be a mastermind if she's inconsistent.
I would maybe use the word quarterback.
Karen, that text message, if she pleads this and that, if she fights in the episode, when did you first see that text and what's your reaction?
I saw that text prior to the first trial. I don't know what would make them think I'd plead to anything because I didn't do anything.
What do you make of the blood alcohol extrapolation?
She'll never plead to anything because she's a psychopathic, remorseless murderer. Of course, she's never going to plead out to anything. I mean, I really question the Karen Reed that Carrie Roberts and Jennifer McCabe saw. And I don't understand why we don't get any testimony like this. Is anyone else puzzled why we don't get any testimony like this? I really liked Karen Reed, but now that I see that she's orchestrated with her lawyers a witness harassment campaign and an innocence fraud campaign, getting rich off her murder of John O'Keefe, I question, was that the real Karen Reed that I saw or just a well-crafted persona, a mask? Why don't we get any testimony like that? Are they afraid of the free Karen Readers? Why are we getting all this glowing testimony about Karen Reed? Is it the questions they're asking? I mean, can't they think, well, I liked Karen Reed at the time, but boy, my opinion has changed. I mean, why it's very similar. No one noticed Karen Reed. And as far as inconsistent stories, Karen Reed, can we talk about Karen Reed's inconsistent stories? These are minute differences. What if Jennifer McCabe told the same exact story in the same exact way every time? The free Karen Readers would go, look, there's something wrong with their story. Look how their stories never change. They're all perfectly consistent, told with the same language in the same way every time. You cannot win with this crowd. If you ask me what I did today, tomorrow it would be different. Certain things would be more important, less important. It's just a human way of relating. But these are all things that innocence fraud campaigns exploit. Well, you missed a hugely important thing, or you left something out in what you told the FBI, and then you called them right after and you added it. That's what they're calling Jennifer McCabe admitting she lied to the FBI, and the press is running with this. So I'm wondering if it even matters, the reality of her actual cross-examination and the fantasy that the Innocence Fraud campaign and the press have bought into and are spreading around. Does it matter what really happened? So I think people who are fair-minded would be hugely disappointed from the descriptions that the press has given in this cross and the actual reality of it. I thought Jennifer McCabe held up very well. It's absolutely unflappable on the stand. As she was a little bit more aggressive and defensive first time around, but she still was excellent. This time around, she was cool as a cucumber. And Alan Jackson continually asking over and over again about Jennifer McCabe, what she heard as far as I hit him. I think the jury's only going to get that whether Karen Read said I hit him or did I hit him. How did she know it was a car? How did she know he didn't just have a heart attack in the snow? I don't know how many of my audience has been with me when I told this story. When I was little, my father and I were driving by our neighbors, and it was snow after a snowstorm, and he had died in his driveway, digging out his driveway with a shovel. It was very frightening. I certainly was not like Karen Read. Of course, we weren't dating, and I was a little girl, but I had no feelings of wanting to jump on top of him and warm him up. It's scary, it's frightening being that up close to death. But Karen Read had no fear. She jumped right on top of John O'Keefe, lifted up her shirt, lifted up his shirt, and rubbed on top of him to warm him up. I mean, what is that behavior? Never clearing his airway? That's what you want to do? You want to scream around a scene, someone you love, and make it all about yourself instead of, and that's what makes me think that this is really her bringing Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts. First of all, there was no need to bring them to the crime scene. There's no need to do any of the things that she did if she actually wanted help for John. This was about putting on a performance, acting hysterical so she could avoid being interrogated by the police and getting herself sectioned, and making sure everyone saw that she was distraught. We've never seen any of that kind of distress, grief. I think she had one moment of grief, Karen Read. Anyway, let's go back to this, go backwards. Look at how Alan Jackson is watching Karen Read through this whole interview.
She's not consistent, so
So she can't be a mastermind if she's inconsistent.
I would maybe use the word quarterback.
Karen,
Wait, I thought she was a mastermind. I thought she was a key player in this conspiracy. Now she's been demoted to a quarterback? What does that even mean?
text message if she pleads this and that, she fights the main episode. When did you first see that text, and what's your reaction?
I saw that text prior to the first trial. I don't know what would make them think I pleaded anything because I didn't do anything.
Okay, so let's talk about Jennifer McCabe's text message to Carrie Roberts that she hoped Karen Read would plead out. So my first reaction is, did they not understand who Karen Read was at all when they knew her? Did no one see beyond the facade? Nobody caught a glimpse of her dark personality, her dark psychopathic personality. Nobody saw that. My second reaction is, of course, if you know the O'Keefe family and if you love John O'Keefe, you hope that someone pleads out. And if you cared about Karen, you would hope she pleads out and end this as soon as possible. Because who wants to be a witness in a trial? Who wants to be this to drag on for the victim's family who may never see closure? We may be never, thanks to details like this, we may be headed towards another mistrial with a hung jury, or we could see an acquittal. It's not because I don't think that the evidence is extremely strong against Karen Read. It's just that I have been studying innocence fraud cases for past 10 years, and I know how powerful they are. I mean, why was Adnan Syed allowed to stay out? The Supreme Court affirmed his guilt, got a judge who very pro-criminal. Now he's allowed to stay out for pretty much no reason except that he was young when he killed. Still over 18. I mean, what are we talking about here? Doesn't make any sense. He was let out on a total fraud. And then they're like, time served, forget about it. So I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see a conviction in this case. It's not because I don't think Hank Brennan has done a fantastic job. I hope so. I hope we are. Certainly a fascinating, brilliant job on the Commonwealth's part. But you have very power. It's almost like, cheating in sports or anything else. It's going to change things. It's not because the best player is not going to win. It's just fraud, cheating, fixing things.
What do you make of the blood alcohol extrapolation? Do you think it could have been 3 times the legal limit?
I think it's garbage in, garbage out, and it depends on their assumption of when I last consumed alcohol. And it's an assumption.
Will we eventually see those media clips that your lawyers objected to today?
There'll be lots of clips, yeah.
Will we see those? Will we see those?
Most likely, yes. They're just, some are taken out of context, and the context needs to be added.
Jen was on for 3 days. Do you think that she will be the longest of the people you plan to cross?
I know Jen McCabe said she was only concerned with doing what was best to help John O'Keefe.
Wait, what is Alan Jackson laughing at here? Look at Alan Jackson laughing. What is this question?
Days. Do you think that she will be the longest of the people you plan to cross?
I know Jen McCabe said she was only concerned with doing what was best to help John O'Keefe. And the best thing for John O'Keefe at 6:04 in the morning was to get a first responder to him immediately. And that was not her priority.
Yeah, we heard a lot.
That's all I have.
Not her priority. Let's talk about your priority. Why does the press never ask, why didn't you call 911, Karen Read? They're all in love with Karen Read. They all treat her like a rock star celebrity. Why doesn't one person ask a difficult, tough question? Why didn't you call 911, Karen Read? Why did you involve Carrie Roberts and Jennifer McCabe when you obviously knew right where he was? I mean, we'll get to those clips today. Hank Brennan again playing very damning clips. But let's look at the beginning of her cross-examination, or some of her cross-examination. This isn't the beginning. This is pretty much right in the middle, right after a break. And he's really just fixated on this 220. It's as if the defense thinks that their only hope is to bamboozle the jury with the time search. So this Haslong to die in the Colts thing has been belabored. But it's been set up pretty nicely for Jessica Hyde if she's coming in. I don't know if she will. I don't know if they'll consider it redundant to come in and really destroy anything. I mean, you have one, I hope she does. I mean, just put that to rest. I mean, all momentum might change when Proctor, if the defense takes Proctor as their witness, or if Proctor comes in and it would really be for Hank Brennan to clear up in closing argument that most of the evidence he used, Proctor didn't touch. He's relying on phone data, car data. Are you really going to say that Proctor manipulated Karen Reed's car data? Really? It'd be cool to see the defense stipulate to the car data stuff. Not even, and how are they going to get an expert to say the car data is wrong? I think it would be near impossible to find, but okay. Maybe there'll be some true crime fan who'll call themselves a car data expert who will involve themselves in this crime. In this case, it's crime. It is a crime, this case. But there was a pretty good, hold on. Let's watch some of this cross.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Found the paper. Okay. Thank you for your patience, Your Honor, and Ms. McCabe. May I approach?
Yes. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
You indicated you wanted to see a record, Ms. McCabe. Did you see a record?
So when they said that Carrie Roberts also committed perjury when she didn't tell the grand jury about the house belonged to die in the cold search, that was not a thing until May of 2023 when Richard McNasty Green got on board and misread the data. So of course she wouldn't have told the grand jury about that. So easy to debunk. I don't understand why the Commonwealth hasn't cleared that up. It became a thing because of the innocence fraud campaign. So everything's feeding, the campaign is feeding the trial.
Record that indicated a Google search, not what the contents of the Google search is, but there was a Google search.
I just saw a Celebrate record, yes.
And did you see the time of the Google search?
On that record, yes.
Is it 2:27 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, you will agree that there was a Google search done, and now I'm going to ask about the content of Hoslong to Die in Cold, correct?
That was done in the morning at the request of Ms. Reed.
Ms. McCabe, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a yes or no question. Did you understand my question?
Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Did that record indicate that there was a search at some point done, at some point, for Hoslong to Die in Cold?
Exact to recovering the record.
So was there a search on that at some point? On that paper, was there a search that said that? Is that the question?
Let's start with that.
Yes. Yeah, there was.
Okay. Now let me ask you a different question. You Google searched the phrase Hoslong to Die in Cold. Yes or no?
Yes.
On January 29th, correct?
Yes.
You were on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't.
Okay. And you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone Hoslong to Die in Cold. Is that right?
Yes. After we found John O'Keefe.
Now, you claim that that was at 6:23 and at 6:24 in the morning. Two iterations of how long to die in the cold. Hoslong to Die in Cold, how long TI die in CIKD, correct?
I'm not claiming it. It's the truth. It's what happened.
You're testifying to that.
Yes, I am.
You also testified that at the time you Google searched those phrases, it was Karen Reed screaming and yelling at you. shaking you to Google hypothermia, correct?
She was pulling on my sleeve, yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You have discussed this Google search and the issue of the hypothermia with Carrie Roberts, correct?
I told her in the days following.
You discussed it? Or no?
Yes.
You discussed it in the days following January 29th, correct?
Yes.
You discussed it before her testimony at the grand jury, correct?
We discussed it after. We don't talk about what we're going to say before testifying or anything like
in
that.
the 3 months between this incident and the testimony by both you and Ms. Roberts, you two did not discuss this hypothermia issue?
It wasn't an issue. It was just something she said, but we don't discuss it every day. There's no need to.
I didn't ask.
Right. So as I'm going to just repeat this for those in the back. At the time, there's no need for Carrie Roberts to tell the grand jury, especially if she wasn't asked, about a 227, about a 623 or 624. See, Alan Jackson's even brainwashing me. 623 or 624, how long to die in the cold search, which Karen Reed asked Jennifer McCabe to do. There's no need for that, to talk about that. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing in this case. Till a year and a month later. I mean,
You discuss it every day. I asked you, did you ever discuss it?
Originally, yes, we did discuss it in the first days following all of
And
this.
that would have been before.
so another thing, I've heard a lawyer say that Karen Reed is dressed incorrectly for her trial. That she's dressing like the lawyers. I think she thinks she is a lawyer after this case. She's going to all the sidebars with them. I mean, she has a right. She's the client. She has a right to go. It's just not common. Not something you've seen. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just very telling of her personality, her controlling personality. That she should really be dressed more like Jennifer McCabe. And there was one day where she came in the same kind of sky blue suit that Jennifer McCabe dresses in, these sort of very muted pastels. Kind of like a soft winter, soft autumn palette. And that she really should be dressed more for the jury to be more relatable and something softer that softens her up and doesn't make her look like a lawyer. What do you think? What do you think of that image management? And this was also very telling. I thought this part was first day of Jennifer McCabe's cross-examination. Alan Jackson asked Jen McCabe how she prepared. Did the Commonwealth talk to you about your tone last trial? So when she got defensive, a little bit defensive, and didn't like being screamed at and being basically accused of being a murderer in cross-examination, she got a little defensive, as one would. If they dealt with her tone, if they talked about if they were going to bring out that she's a sports mom to make her more likable for the jury, if they went over her testimony, what she was going to say and what she should say and how she should say it. And if I were a juror on this case, I would find it hugely telling. When the defense puts on their witnesses, I would think, wow, is that what you're doing? Because it is what the defense is doing. Are you managing the way your defense witnesses come across to the jury? Are you bringing out things for sympathy? Are you crafting and scripting their testimony, which we know from the ARCA communications they are? I thought that was a giant fail for Alan Jackson. I thought he was going to get some admissions. Like, yes, we went over that they were going to, how to make me likable for the jury. Did you go over tape? She goes, no, I just looked at videotape and said, that's me. That's that. This was what was going on during this time, because the video from the scene is really hard to distinguish who's who and who's doing what, especially with Karen Reed screaming and carrying on. She really pulls focus.
Either one of you testified at the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And we know that you were with her during her, just before her testimony at the grand jury. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're certainly aware that at the grand jury, that in prior testimony, Carrie Roberts corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded to Google hypothermia.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Are you aware that Carrie Roberts, well, let me ask it a different way. Have you and Carrie Roberts ever discussed the fact that she corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded that you Google hypothermia?
No.
She ever told you that?
No.
Did you ever ask her that?
No.
Did you two discuss your statement that Karen Reed was the one that demanded that search?
Karen Reed did ask me to do the search, yes.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. Did you and Carrie Roberts discuss that?
Yes, we've talked about that.
Are you aware that last week Carrie Roberts denied hearing that statement?
Sustained.
Have you been told, have you been updated that last week Carrie Roberts denied ever having heard that statement?
Sustained.
May we approach?
Yes. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Even my cat can't stand it.
Anywhere in this case, from attributable to my client.
No.
You aware of that?
No.
You've reviewed the video from the dash cam out at the scene, correct?
I've seen it, yes.
You're aware that there is no video showing my client demanding a Google search anywhere in this case, correct?
I'm not sure what what cameras were where.
You're aware that there's no audio of my client demanding a Google search, correct?
Correct.
You're unaware of any witness who can corroborate your statement that my client demanded a Google search. Any witness at all.
It was just the two of us. She had sent Carrie off.
Karen Reed. That's how I would answer it. Karen Reed could corroborate it if she were telling the truth. And she would actually testify. What's she afraid of, Mr. Jackson? He keeps eliciting statements that are damning for his client.
So, of course, Carrie Roberts is not such corroborating witness. Is that right? At least you understand that.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Carrie Roberts is not a corroborating witness for you. You understand that? You just said that.
Yes, Carrie, I don't believe heard it. She was sent off.
So it's your word and your word only, Ms. McCabe, that my client demanded a Google search. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ms. McCabe, you were with Carrie Roberts just before her grand jury testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
You had been with her to create a timeline of a version of events that occurred, correct?
I wouldn't say a version of events. We each put down what we remembered.
She saw what you put down. You saw what she put down.
Yes.
And you compared and contrasted those with each other to create that timeline, correct?
No, we didn't compare and contrast. I said, she called me, she said this, then Carrie, and someone was writing it down for us.
That would be your sister, who?
It was my sister, yes.
Your sister.
My sister, Denise.
What's your last name?
Galvin.
She here?
She is here, yes.
Where is she?
She's sitting over there.
Can you point to her and describe what she's wearing?
Sure, she's over there in the back with the striped shirt on.
Between the gentleman in the purple and the gentleman in the black?
Yes.
So she witnessed this timeline being prepared, correct?
She wrote the timeline, yes.
And then you've spoken to Ms. Roberts several times about this case.
Yes.
And about your perceptions of this case, correct?
We talk about what happened and the aftermath of this case. We don't talk about the specific details as much as we talk about the aftermath of everything.
Ms. McCabe,
Right. I mean, he's so close to opening the door to the witness harassment stuff if he hasn't already.
the fact is, you instructed Carrie Roberts to say that she heard that Google hypothermia statement from my client before she testified at the grand jury, didn't you?
No, absolutely not. I never instructed her to do anything.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I don't
Ms.
need.
McCabe,
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
so you're the only person saying that, though.
Yes, and I stand by that 110%.
And the reason that you wanted another witness to back up that statement is because you knew that that Google search for Hosselong to die in cold points a very uncomfortable finger right toward you, correct?
I never did that search at 227. I never needed to instruct somebody. No, I'm sorry.
There's an apology again. Has someone told you that you need to apologize when you say, when there's an uncomfortable question that you don't want to answer?
No.
Have you discussed this with anybody?
No, and that's not an uncomfortable question. I'm fine to answer it.
How many times did you say, I apologize yesterday across the table?
I didn't count.
Oh, more than 15, right?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to answer the questions and be.
That sounds like some free reader was counting how many times Jennifer apologized. It's a very common habit that women get. We are socialized to be accommodating and nice. Even when we're being treated, even when we're being abused by someone like Alan Jackson. It's like a super abusive cross. This isn't a tough cross. And I don't think it's helpful for the defense to have every witness be arch enemy number one. Everyone's lying. Everyone can't remember. Everyone really? If every witness in this case is lying and the one person who's telling the truth won't take the stand, you think the jury's not going to put that together? That is, given that it's a fair jury. If it's a free Karen Reed turtle riders on the jury, it won't matter. None of this matters. We're all going through this for nothing because no evidence will be enough for them. It will always be, why come? Why come Jennifer McCabe butt dialed? Why come the taillight wasn't all found together? Well, because it was a terrible snowstorm, so it wasn't all found at the same time. It was scattered. Just why come, why come, why come? These minute things that don't matter while they ignore the big pieces of evidence against Karen Reed. And Karen Reed's own conflicting and incriminating, self-incriminating statements. They just ignore it. They call everyone else a liar, but Karen Reed can lie, does not matter.
Be truthful as I can.
And you're aware that the Cellebrite extraction that was done on your phone determined that of the three searches, 2:27 a.m., 6:23 a.m., 6:24 a.m., only one of them was recorded as deleted, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever?
So now he's... My understanding, she didn't delete anything. Isn't what he's referring to as a deletion a natural? Let me ask Maestro. Is he around? Isn't this a natural way that your computer works? It's called a deletion, but it's just moving it around from one file to the next. Manny says, I love Roberta Glass. We need a Canoni song similar to Wham or their Rhythmics. You want a new wave song? Great stuff. Thank you. A new wave song about Canoni. Yeah, I could write a song about Canoni. I don't know. She's so awful. So it's the one thing I agree with about the pre-Karen readers, but not for the reason that they dislike her. I do dislike her too. You're right. Okay, I am right. You're right. I'm in the business and they always tell us to stop saying it, but it's very hard. They call it a deletion, but it's not a deletion. It's moving from one file to the next. Okay. Yeah, nothing was user deleted by Jennifer McCabe. So he's purposely trying to mislead. He's purposely trying to mislead the jury. Now, this is great if it works. But when you purposely mislead the jury, you lose all credibility with them. If they find out. And that's the way the defense has been going, is bamboozle the court, bamboozle the jury, and hope no one finds out. Well, we did find out with the ARCA witnesses that they were paid. They weren't unbiased, unpaid witnesses. They were extremely biased for the defense and paid for. And lying witnesses too. Those crosses are going to be fantastic. I mean, that is the one gift of Judge Cannoni not throwing them out, is that when these ARCA accident reconstruction witnesses who were hired by the federal investigation, but I don't think that there's much difference between the federal investigation and Karen Reed's defense team. And I would think, my suspicion, and I can't prove it, it's just a theory, is that Alan Jackson or David Yannetti might have used ARCA in the past for something and had some experience and suggested that the feds hire them. Perhaps Alan Jackson, since Alan Jackson's the one sending all the emails to them, but it may have been Yannetti. Who knows? But boy, is that going to be a good cross when that comes in. The guy is, at first he says that he couldn't get this is the ARCA accident constructionist witness, Daniel Wolf, says that he couldn't get his text messages. He didn't delete anything. Talk about deleting text messages. None of the free Karen readers find this suspicious. Actually, user deleted. So first he says that he couldn't get his text messages because he switched carriers. Then he changes his story in the same testimony minutes later, saying that he actually sat down and deleted them all. How much do you want to bet it was back in November, when Hank Brennan started asking for these communications between the defense and these ARCA witnesses in the discovery? And that's when they moved over to Signal app with the auto delete to talk to them only on Signal app. So he says, yeah, no, I sat down and delete them, but I can't remember when I did it because I delete so many of my messages between myself and my clients. Who does that? Unless you're in some kind of a legal business, who does that? The only reason you would do that if you're a business person, if you're breaking the law, or you're breaking a rule in your actual business itself, to hide from your boss, to hide something that you're doing that's not good.
Ever been confronted with having deleted a Google search off your phone? You ever been asked that?
Yes, by you.
Do you deny that you deleted a Google search off your phone?
I never deleted a Google search off my phone.
So you deny
never did that. I deny it, yes.
That you ever deleted a Google search?
Yes. I never made the search.
I'd like to move back to the time of about 6:03 in the morning, Ms. McCabe, when you, along with Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed, approached 34 Fairview. This is Exhibit 4. It's been previously entered into evidence. I think you've...
Just so you know what I'm talking about, here's the ARCA
case. Sure.
The ARCA witness talking about downloading Signal, which is Karen Reed's preferred method of communication. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing.
Did you ever communicate by any other means, like Signal or an application?
During the time of the trial?
Anytime.
Yes, sir.
With the defense?
Yes.
Is it typical for a biomechanical engineer to use an application like Signal to talk to an attorney on a case?
Sure.
You know the benefit of Signal, don't you?
I mean, it's a messaging platform, yes.
Well, encrypted app, isn't it?
What was that?
Encrypted?
I don't know, sir.
It keeps no record of the communication when you use an application like Signal, does it?
I don't know, sir.
Well, you used it. Did you have it on your phone that you were using it with other people?
No, I don't believe so.
So the only time that you use Signal in your career is when you were dealing with this defense team?
Yes, it was earlier this year. Mr. Jackson had communicated with me, indicating that it was his preferred method of communication. So yes, we did exchange some messages on Signal. But this was at no point in time during the first trial.
Using the Signal app, was that your suggestion?
No, again, I think it was Mr. Jackson that said it was his preferred method.
Is that standard in your industry to use Signal when you're talking to clients?
I don't know that there's a standard out there, sir.
I'm asking about your standard. Is it your standard to use an encrypted app when you're talking to attorneys?
If the client has that preference, I don't have a problem with it, sir.
How many times have you done it other than this defense team?
Again, as I just mentioned, it was the first time.
How many conversations do you think you had with the defense team by Signal?
Again, it would have been just Mr. Jackson. And like I said, it was really, I think, just in the month of March of this year, but it was brief. I know that I think we exchanged a couple phone calls, and I remember the call quality was terrible. So we really didn't use it that much.
Okay, you're saying a lot of things. You're saying you think. I want to know your best memory. I don't want you to think. If you don't know, you don't know. How many times did you use Signal with the defense to talk about this case?
Going to allow it.
From what I recall, was probably a handful of times.
When you say if what you recall, are you purposely being vague in case there's records, or do you not remember?
I don't remember, sir. As you mentioned, it doesn't keep a log of it, so I just don't recall.
Well, you don't have to.
Right. So this is something that lawyers tell clients to do, especially when they're lying, is to say they don't recall, because there's no punishment for having a bad memory. There is punishment for perjury. I think he has been communicating on Signal since at least November. That's with the defense team. And it is Karen Reed's way of preferred means communication. And you can watch her smirking through this entire thing, thinking that she's outsmarted everyone. And she may outsmart everyone. It may go down that way. I don't know. Certainly the Commonwealth, it's a fair jury, I think, is doing a phenomenal job. I think she would have been convicted the first time around without the innocence fraud campaign, but don't know. Things get crazy. You never can predict which way a jury's going to go. You don't know who's on it. And certainly when innocence fraud gets involved, things change. But boy, are they doing a good job. And these will be explosive crosses in court. When they come up, they're going to be destroyed. It's not going to matter so much with ARCA. They testify. The credibility has been destroyed.
Rely on a log. You can rely on your actual memory.
Right. I'm telling you that I didn't keep track of it, so I don't know the specific number.
How many times do you think you talked by Signal?
As I just mentioned, I think it was a handful of times.
I don't know what a handful means.
Probably 4 to 5.
Well, was it 4 or was it 5?
It was probably 4 to 5. It's the best estimate I can give you.
How long were the conversations on Signal? The 4 to 5 times?
I think they were pretty brief. I'd say probably around 5 minutes or so.
You think each one was 5 minutes?
Probably 5 minutes,
You're
yes.
putting it on a timer? Each one had to be a maximum of 5 minutes?
No, I'm just giving you my best estimate, sir.
Mm-hmm. How certain are you that the Signal calls were 4 to 5 minutes?
Again, I just told you I'm providing my best estimate.
How confident are you the times were between 4 and 5 minutes?
So you get the idea. Back to Karen Reed and Jennifer McCabe's. Karen Reed's retrial and Jennifer McCabe's cross.
You've seen part of this exhibit. Do you recall, before we get to the exhibit, do you recall my client when the first officer on scene, do you know his name, by the way?
I believe it was Officer Seraph.
When Officer Seraph approached, he asked the question, what happened? Something like that. Open-ended question. Do you remember that?
I don't remember what he specifically said.
Do you remember my client a few seconds later saying, my boyfriend, I left him, he never came home?
I don't remember the specifics of what was said.
Your Honor, if we could, I would ask that we queue up Exhibit 4 for the jurors at runtime 420.
Okay.
Before we play this, I'm going to play just like a second of it and ask if you can hear the volume.
Okay.
We heard Mr. Wolf? Did you hear anything?
Oh, I can hear, yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know how loud it's going to be, quite frankly.
Okay.
This is like the most impotent part of the cross for me. What does it matter? Okay. First of all, you can't understand what Karen Reed is saying. But does anybody think, and this is where I think Carrie Roberts, and she's doubled down on it on these interviews that she's given, and Jennifer McCabe have actually helped Karen Reed. When they said, I'm helping Karen Reed look for John O'Keefe. Have they not gotten in their mind that Karen Reed knew exactly where John O'Keefe was and says so in the clips that Hank Brennan plays at the end of this cross? She knew right where to look for him. She left him right where she left him. She wasn't looking for him. She was pretending to look for him. But why are they saying I helped her look for him? You know, because, and Carrie Roberts even said in her interview recently with the media, I think national media, she needed help looking. She didn't know where he was. She needed help look. No, she didn't. She needed an audience. Have they not put the pieces together? Has it not gotten through their head that they were marks used by Karen Reed? First of all, she needed someone else to call 911. She didn't want to implicate herself by calling 911. So there's certain things that killers do that implicate themselves when they call 911. Generally, they ask for help for themselves and not help for the victim. And that's a pattern that you can see all through Karen Reed's that morning, her behavior that morning. She's always bringing the attention on herself, not on John O'Keefe. All she wants to know is he dead? Did she kill him? And that means, am I in deep crap for killing my boyfriend? Am I going to be charged with murder? That's what she's asking. It's all about herself. It's not about, is he dead, Peg? Is he dead? She's screaming in the hospital. Not how is he? Is he going to make it? It's very different. Is he dead? Is he dead? She just wants to know. It's almost like she wants to sell her. I mean, she enjoys her handiwork. She said she was anticipating finding him. She was anticipating it. She knew he was going to be on the side of the road. She wasn't looking for him. And then she needed other personalities to mix in that morning, because otherwise she has no one else to point the finger at. Without Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts and the Alberts in 34 Fairview, she has no one to point the finger at. Without mixing in Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts, she makes the 911 call. She is the last person to see him alive. And she needs an audience to look hysterical and be upset. It's the last time we ever seen any emotion from Karen Reed, strangely, on that one morning. The rest of the time she's been shown no emotion, laughing through his pig when his autopsy pictures are shown up, or his pictures from the morgue are shown up in court. A lot of times family members have to leave. It's so distressing. Karen Reed has no signs of distress. Shown no remorse, no upset. It's always all about Karen Reed. And she doesn't have any feelings of empathy. She loathes the O'Keefe family. And the message she wants out is how much she hated John O'Keefe and how much she hates the O'Keefe family. Just because of their relationship to John O'Keefe. And this was her expression of how much she hated him by running him over 24 miles an hour in reverse, her foot 74.5% down on the gas pedal, almost flooring it in reverse, with her infotainment system beeping and flashing at her, telling her she was going to hit something. This is not an accident. It's not the product of being drunk. So drunk she didn't know what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. Maybe the alcohol made it a little bit more likely that she'd do something like this. But once you cross Karen Reed, she's going to make sure that you're taught a lesson. Revenge is the name of the game. You're her target. And Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts were her target that morning. She knew that she could point the finger at those two and be comfortable with it.
Ms. McCabe, will you please pay attention to the audio portion of this video as this is played? Could you hear that?
I heard something.
Could you hear my client? It sounded like Ms. Reed.
It sounded like a female.
Did it sound like Ms. Reed, female?
I'm not sure I could. Could I listen to it again?
With the court permission, one more time.
One more time.
Could you hear it?
I could hear it, yes.
What did she say?
I have no idea.
Did she say, my boyfriend, I left him, and he never came home?
I could not make that out.
You testified on direct examination that you were basically a passenger along in this ride on the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, that you were not the person in charge, correct?
I was in the passenger seat and Miss Roberts was driving.
This is a bad question on my part. Let me see if I can reframe that. You testified that it was Kerry Roberts who was basically the take charge person in the scenario between and among the three of you, Ms. Reed and Ms. Roberts.
Yes, yes.
Not you, correct?
No.
You were just sort of along for the ride, assisting how you could, correct?
I was trying to help Miss Reed and find John O'Keefe.
If we could play a clip starting at, and I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, to take a look at several clips. The first one starting at 6:21 runtime to 7:41. It's just over a minute. With the court's permission?
Yes.
You pause this. Do you recognize the three individuals in the foreground of this video?
I do, yes.
Can you start from left to right and describe for the jurors who we're looking at?
I believe that's me in the black coat. To the right of me is Miss Roberts, and on the other side of the car is Miss Reed.
Miss Roberts has, just to distinguish, Miss Roberts seemed to have fur on her hood where you did not.
Yes.
If you could go ahead and play that, please. You pause it, please. Can you see who it appears you're talking to at that point?
I don't know who that is, no.
Go ahead and play it. Pause it. Does it appear that you're engaged in conversation with that person while Miss Roberts is attending to something in the truck and Miss Reed is running back and forth?
Yes, I was speaking to whoever that was.
Do you believe that was a police officer?
I believe, yes.
Go ahead and play it. Mr. Wolk, if you'll stop it at 7:41, please. Could you see what was depicted in the video, about that minute and 10-second runtime?
Yes.
Did it appear that you were engaged in conversation with that other person?
Yes.
When that other person walked away, could you see his jacket?
I couldn't make it out now.
Did it appear to be he was a police officer?
I'm going to assume it was a police officer, yes.
Okay. In that video, who looks most like she is taking charge, you or Carrie Roberts?
Gotcha.
Sister.
Did it appear in that video that you're the one controlling the narrative, at least with law enforcement at that point?
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one engaging in conversation with law enforcement while Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed are otherwise occupied?
I am speaking with law enforcement, yes.
Can we move to runtime 8:56? Pause it. Can you see yourself in that video?
I can, yes.
Which person are you?
I'm in the far right.
Speaking to someone?
Yes.
Who's that you're speaking to?
I can't make it out, but it looks like a police officer possibly.
And Ms. Roberts is directly in the middle of the screen, is that right?
I thought that was Miss Reed, but I could be wrong.
Let's go ahead and play it. And at 9:26, you'll stop, please. In that video clip, who among the three of you appear to be most engaged with law enforcement at that time?
Can you tell? Can you answer that, Ms. Reed? I mean, can you answer that, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I can. I was speaking to police officers. Yes, I was trying to help them.
Okay. Can we go to runtime 10:49? This will be from 10:49 to 11:55, Mr. Wolk.
Very telling moment there for Judge Canoni, whose entire interest has been with Karen Reed, Karen Reed's feelings, Karen Reed's rights, Karen Reed's, not that she shouldn't consider her rights, but they're not at all balanced with the rights of with the law, with the rights of the O'Keefe family, with the rights of the people. It's Karen Reed, Karen Reed, and Karen Reed. How can she accommodate Karen Reed the most? I mean, of course, you don't want her to violate her rights, but to only think about Karen Reed's rights, I think is not being very balanced. And how many times is her legal team going to lie to the court, break the law, act like criminals? So there she is calling Jennifer McCabe Miss Reed. Can you answer that, Miss Reed? Yeah, that's a good question, Judge Canodi. Can Karen Reed answer any question under oath? She only likes to answer questions to the media, strangely, which has no punishment for lying, as she's been caught lying to the media multiple times, changing her story as much as she changes her clothes. Outrageous.
Can you pause it? Who is it that's just gesticulating in the video?
That is me.
We'll go and play it. Did you see yourself in that video, that clip, about a minute long clip?
Yes, I did.
Who among the three of you appeared to be most engaged with law enforcement in that clip?
I was.
Runtime 20:22, Mr. Wolk.
This makes no sense. So it was what the defense is saying is that Jennifer McCabe orchestrated this so she could control law enforcement and control the investigation. How would she know that Karen Rood was going to call her? Most other people would call 911 immediately when their boyfriend's missing. And Jennifer McCabe would be long out of it. I mean, let's just for a thought experiment, pretend that this is a giant conspiracy of 50 plus people. How would Jennifer McCabe sees John O'Keefe killed? Now it looks like maybe they're going to say he was killed in the garage. Now they're defenses switching strategies. Try to, I guess, include him in that circle where the cell phone didn't move. So he went from the garage to the outside, but there's no signs of him ever being moved. But okay, anyway, cell phone doesn't move. It wouldn't move out of that small circle, right? But Jennifer McCabe, she wants to go back. They want to go back to the home and look for him when Jennifer McCabe really knows where he is. And why is it Karen Reed suddenly can see him and Jennifer McCabe can't? Wouldn't she know where he was put? She was part of the conspiracy. Doesn't make any sense. How would she know she would even be involved the next morning? And why throw him out on your front lawn?
Stop it.
I mean, as for Brian Albert, why would a seasoned detective throw out a police officer on her front lawn? They know how police investigations work. Why wouldn't they just disappear his body?
Do you see yourself in that video?
I do, yes.
You just walked in from frame right?
Yes.
From frame right going left?
Yes, behind Miss Roberts.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's you right in the middle of the screen?
Yes, it is.
And Miss Roberts had already run through, went to her SUV, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and play. This is about a 2-minute clip for the court's edification.
All right.
And this is the last of them.
Where are you going?
So what will you pause it? Can you tell who you're speaking to there?
I think it's Mike Lang.
Go ahead and play it.
God, I'm really feeling so sick.
Yeah, just one more. Ms. McCabe, who was most engaged in that clip with law enforcement? Between them on you and Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed.
I was.
You noticed when Mr. O'Keefe was placed on the gurney in a prior clip and moved past you, correct?
Yes.
Did you notice what your reaction was when that gurney passed you?
I didn't know.
Did you see that you turned your back completely to Mr. O'Keefe as he passed by?
If that happened, it wasn't on purpose.
Ms. McCabe, when you got to the scene, we can take that down. When you got to the scene at 6:03 in the morning, you immediately recognized, did you not, that this was an emergency situation? High intensity emergency situation, correct?
I knew it was an emergency situation, yes.
As a matter of fact, a man's life was in grave danger. You knew that.
Yes, I did.
And this is someone that was a friend of yours, correct?
Yes, he was a dear friend.
Not just a friend, but a police officer who was laying, as far as you knew, dying in the snow. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that you needed to get immediate medical attention, emergency medical attention to him as quickly as you possibly could. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that minutes counted, right?
Yes.
You knew that seconds counted, correct?
Correct.
This man was grasping, as far as you knew, grasping and clinging to life at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
That's why you called 911, to get emergency personnel who were trained in CPR and life-saving measures to the scene, to the gentleman, to Mr. O'Keefe, as quickly as you possibly could, correct?
Yes.
You called 911 at about 6:03 and 35 seconds. Is that right? I don't expect you to know down to the second, but it's about a couple of minutes after 6.
Right after, yeah, we found him, yes.
And you're aware from the dash cam that Officer Seraph got there about 6:10, almost on the nose, right?
I didn't pay attention to the time.
You'll agree with me that there was about 6.5 minutes or so between the time you called 911 and the time Officer Seraph got there. Is that right?
If that's what the dash cam says, yes.
On that 911 call, you referred to John O'Keefe as a man passed out in the snow.
Yes.
You didn't say, this is my friend.
I needed to get, like you said, emergency there. So I wasn't going to give I wasn't going to give a description and say my friend is in the snow. I was going to give them the information that I thought was the most important at the time.
Did you say his name?
I just said a man because that was the most important identifying.
You didn't say John?
Eventually in the 911, I do say his name.
You didn't initially say O'Keefe, correct?
No, none of that matters. It was a man in the snow, and I wanted help there.
And you didn't say he's a Boston police officer or an off-duty police officer?
Again, a man needed help.
Yes or no? Did you say that?
I didn't.
Do you think that might, yes or no? Do you think that might have sped things up if they knew?
I mean, you're not thinking that way. You're thinking my friend is in the snow. I mean, it doesn't matter who he is at the time. And they were there within minutes anyway. So what are we talking about here? So good. Please hit the thumbs up, support the channel, share this episode. Leave me a comment. Also, I read every single one of your comments. Appreciate it. I want to thank people to thank. Carol Hoffman, Fada Sicer. Also want to thank Jackie Joe, 10, Leanne's Learning, and Maria Horton for buying me a coffee and Venmo. It's a great way to support the channel. All the links are in the description of this episode. All right, here we go. Please hit the thumbs up while you're thinking about it. It's help the algorithm. But there is a article from Anonymous Lawyer. I don't know who this is. He or she is anonymous. So it's a little play on Anonymous in Massachusetts, Anonymous Lawyer. So this is after Jennifer McCabe's first day of testimony. Today was a continuation of Jen McCabe's testimony, including extensive cross-examination from Alan Jackson. Some quick thoughts and observations. Jen McCabe has done an impressive job so far under incredibly difficult circumstances. I thought she was a pretty good witness on direct examination in the first trial, but she was understandably very defensive on cross-examination and tried a little too hard to anticipate and outmaneuver Jackson, which is a pretty common thing that inexperienced witnesses do under cross-examination. She's clearly learned from that experience and has done a remarkable job this time of remaining even-keeled and not taking Jackson's bait. In fact, she's been so good at not falling into Jackson's trap that he's clearly getting frustrated up there and spinning his wheels. It's not a great look for such an experienced lawyer. I doubt he's winning anyone over on the jury. As they did with Kerry Roberts' supposed perjury, talked about that, The Free Karen Reed crowd has worked itself up into a lather about Jen supposedly lying to the FBI. In reality, Jen gave an incomplete answer to a question, then called the agents up immediately after to expand upon that answer. There's no world in which that's a Section 1001 violation, as evidenced by the fact that the U.S. Attorney's Office closed its case without pursuing any charges. Moreover, the Free Karen Reed crowd is missing the entire point of this line of questioning. As with Kerry Roberts, Jackson's purpose in mentioning the FBI interview has little to do with impugning the witness's credibility and everything to do with trying to get around Judge Cannone's order forbidding reference to the federal investigation. You see, under federal law, 18 U.S.C. 1001, it is a crime to make false statements to federal agents. In his cross-examination of both Roberts and McCabe, Jackson went out of his way to reference this statute. While he hasn't said the word FBI, he's clearly hoping that someone on the jury will understand the statutory reference and explain to the rest of the jury that the other law enforcement agency is in fact the FBI. That's why he's doing this. He knows that in the last trial, the jury was confused about the various references to another agency, and he desperately wants them to put the pieces together this time, while of course not knowing that the federal investigation was closed without any charges being pursued. That's why he chose to ask McCabe about the FBI interview this time, despite that same information, and choosing not to use it at the last trial. Despite having that same information and choosing not to use it at the last trial. Jackson's cross-examination isn't done, so he may still score some meaningful points, but I don't really think he has so far. Indeed, his lengthy cross-examination of Jen related to Karen's I hit him statement was entirely counterproductive. Agreed. Spending literally hours trying to argue that your client only said something marginally less incriminating, did I hit him, is not a good use of your time, especially when several other witnesses corroborate that statement. All it does is result in the statement being repeated over and over again for the jury and make it look like the statement is so incriminating that you can't afford to let it go. The better way to handle something like that is to try to minimize its importance, which they did the first trial. Jackson has not, so far at least, asked any questions about how long to die in the cold. This was all today, or the today we're going over now. I have to assume that's coming tomorrow, but it's interesting that he's gone there yet. And I think it speaks to what a good decision Brennan made in having Ian Whiffen testify immediately before Jen. Whiffen's thorough debunking of the whole 227 narrative made it much harder for Jackson to effectively cross Jen on the subject. A question I asked the Free Karen Reed crowd on Twitter today: if Jen McCabe is such a stone cold liar and every detail of her story is a well-crafted lie, why didn't she just lie and say that she saw the dog in the bedroom? Why be honest about just that part? Needless to say, the replies are hilarious and don't reflect well on the conspiracy theorists. Just going to skip forward. Speaking of genuine question, I asked her another question on Twitter. Genuine question: how does the defense explain the 12:29 McCabe called to John if John was supposedly already in the house but not yet attacked? Have they ever offered a theory about that? The replies are absolute gold. On a related and slightly more serious point, there are now mounting clues that the defense's retoiled theory may have John attacked in the garage. So, to my question about the 229 call, they may argue that Jen, at least at that point, was genuinely unaware of John's whereabouts, but that he was inside the garage, not the SUV, when that call was received. It may be possible, but is it probable or likely? No. I mean, it's just impossible, the conspiracy theory, to put all these pieces together without using the actual timeline and the evidence.
911 operator knew that this was a fallen officer, a fellow officer.
I think 911 comes to everyone equally. I don't think they would have.
Do you think that might have been something important to relay to the 911 officials?
I don't know.
You were even asked by the 911 operator, does anybody know CPR? And your answer was no, correct?
I'd have to listen to it to remember my exact answers.
But it was basically in the negative. No, we're not professionals. We're just out here doing the best we can, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
You didn't believe Karen Reed knew CPR?
I didn't know. I don't think I answered that question. I don't think it was asked.
You didn't know if Carrie Roberts knew CPR, correct?
I didn't know if they knew.
Carrie Roberts did know CPR. She testified to it. One juror had to pick that up. I did. Why is Karen Reed's lawyer pretending we didn't hear testimony about Carrie Roberts knowing CPR? My father's alibi, so generous. Thank you. 50. I have to get some music for this. Dun 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 dun. Dun. When memberships are handed out. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So they will be handed out in random among the chat. Very cool. Thank you. Thanks, Allison. Check out her channel, My Father's Alibi. And check out the interview she did on this channel about her mother, Nancy Galvani's murder.
CPR, correct.
And none of you were paramedics?
No.
None of you were first responders?
No.
None of you were trained in emergency life-saving techniques in any way, correct?
Correct.
I have a question, Ms. McCabe. Mm-hmm. On all of Fairview, the entire road between Chapman and Cedar Crest, can you think of any person on that road who might have had life-saving techniques trained into them? First responder, someone who knew how to deal with someone in distress, someone with high skill level training. Do you think of anyone on Fairview who had that kind of training?
Can I now or did I then? Which are you asking?
Did you then?
No, then my focus was on John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me narrow the focus. How about on the property? How about at 34 Fairview? Could you think of anyone that was a first responder who would have life-saving training, life-saving technique training under his belt?
Yes, my brother-in-law, Brian Albert.
And you didn't go in the house, did you?
No, I did not.
When you arrived at the scene, you didn't go in? Not until much later, correct?
Our focus was John.
You knew that Brian Albert was inside the house. You'd just been with him hours earlier, correct?
Yes.
You knew that his window was 30 feet away. You're staring at it. You could look at it if you wanted to, correct?
It's off to an angle.
And you didn't go in the house then either.
I did not know.
You knew that John O'Keefe was clinging to life during those precious minutes and seconds. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And you also knew that Brian Albert, your brother-in-law, was a first responder trained to deal with people in that kind of distress, correct?
In that moment, my only thoughts were John and everything we could do for John.
And you knew that there were warm blankets inside the house. Is that right?
I did, yes. There were warm blankets in the house.
And you still never went in, did you?
No, I went and attended to John because once I finished calling 911, I went over to John and Carrie Roberts asked me to take over compressions. So I felt like that was more important and 911 was on the way. I never thought about going in the house. I just thought, how can I help John?
You never thought about going in the house, but you did pull out your cell phone and make 2 phone calls, didn't you?
After I called 911, I tried calling my sister, yes.
While John was out in the cold, clinging to life, you weren't doing...
Clinging to life. What is Karen Reed doing? Karen Reed pretending to do CPR. She never cleared his airwaves. Everyone seemed to know he was dead. But Karen Reed never had that kind of denial that you have when someone you love is dead in front of you. Did Karen Reed go back to the body before going to Jennifer McCabe's house? I think this is going to be really compelling testimony, if that's so, about her car route that morning. This has been a rumor that's been floating around this case. When she's looking for John O'Keefe in a 2-mile square radius, did she go visit the body? John O'Keefe's body. And talking about, I just want to go back to when Karen Reed said that, she said that these clips lack context. What context would make any of these clips any better for her? And as far as he didn't look mortally wounded, it's pretty obvious to me and anyone else who's followed this case that Karen Reed after she clipped John with her car, took a look at him and said he didn't look mortally wounded. I'll teach him a lesson. I'll have him injured out in the cold. Teach him a lesson. That was her thought. And John O'Keefe had tried to kick her out of the home 2 days before this. She refused to leave the home. So what are the chances? I think we could reasonably infer that John O'Keefe had had enough. They'd been fighting all day and ended it. They were fighting in the car in the dark section of they didn't pull into the driveway, the dark section away from the house. They didn't want other people to see them fighting in the car. He gets out, says, "Are you coming or not? But this is over. I'm done. I'll get a ride home." And she put her car 24 miles an hour in reverse. Her infotainment system was beeping and flashing at her. She put her foot 75% down on the gas pedal and hit him. Looked at him, did a three-point turn and then looked at him. Could be either way. And sped off to his house. And she didn't take off. We know she didn't take off her shoes because we can hear her shoes going through the garage. There's no stop to take off her shoes. You can hear her high heels clip through the garage. But a lot of people talk about like even on this side, that she had some kind of pressing, like a remote garage door opener. No. You had to get out and put in the numbers on a pad. You can see it in his house. A lot of people made up stuff relating this case. She threw his phone at him in a fury, in a drunk rage. Didn't happen. She had some kind of remote garage door opener. Didn't happen. Didn't exist. And all that helps Karen Reed. The more disinformation you put out about this case, even well-meaning, the more it helps Karen Reed.
Chest compressions 607 and 608 for you.
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked 25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting Kerry blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those two very important phone calls at 607 and 608 that you say were not answered. Correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break.
You're all right. 2 more questions.
Okay.
And I'll wrap it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house. You see nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep.
They weren't coming outside, were they?
Because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct, she didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone, and nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus, can I finish, please?
You solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't...
There's the clap of frustration. The clap of frustration. You didn't get help. Neither did Karen Reed. Why did she have to involve... Hey, Alan Jackson, why did Karen Reed have to involve Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts? Why didn't she just call 911? Here's my clapping. My insistent clapping. Does it make my argument any better? Why didn't Karen Reed just call 911? How did Karen Reed know where John O'Keefe was when his whole body was covered in snow? Does that make your point better? Does that make my argument more effective if I just clap? Ah. All right, we'll finish this off and then we're going to play the clips of damning clips of from Karen Reed's own mouth at the end of this.
It's because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
All right, jurors, lunch and break. We'll take 20, 25.
She loves it. She look at Judge Cannone smiling. She loves it. She loves that sleazy yelling, lawyering, badgering the witness from Alan Jackson. I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, Karen Reed's own statements. Don't go anywhere. Please hit the thumbs up, guys. Support these live streams. It is all listener supported. Be back with Karen Reed's own statements. Don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, we are back. Did everybody hit the thumbs up? All right, here we go. Karen Reed's own statements. We got 3 of them at the end of Jen McCabe's cross-examine and redirect.
I'd ask you to just wait 10 seconds.
I'm sorry.
All right, you can play them now.
May I proceed?
Yes.
I'd like to play clip 12, please.
There was a woman who was a mother to kids that were close to John's kids, who lived very close to the Alberts. In fact, when Jen was navigating John to the Alberts when I was driving, she said, it's near Ashley's house. Ashley and John are hooked up prior to John and I dating. There was a woman.
Hold on before you play it
We've
again.
already played that one. We don't need to play it again.
Okay.
12A, please.
Two things. Either he's hurt himself and is incapacitated. He could be passed out on someone's couch, which is just weird. We're not on campus. Everyone lives in their own home with children, or he's sleeping with someone. And there were multiple women in the neighborhood.
Wait, we're not on campus. So when you drop someone off, they don't have a car. Isn't the logical place to think that he slept at someone's house? Maybe someone didn't want to drive in the snow. Maybe he slept over. They waited till the roads were plowed the next morning. This is Massachusetts' 7th worst snowstorm in history. Why would it? We're not on campus. You have to be a young person to sleep over. If so, I don't know. At least it's more common in the city. Maybe less common in the suburbs. I don't know. But if I'm out in Brooklyn and I don't want to take the train late, I'll sleep over at my friend's house in Brooklyn rather than take the train home late in Manhattan. I don't know. Does that make me a repressed teenager or something? Sky girl, thanks so much for the super sticker. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's a logical thing. Why is she poo-pooing it? How did she know he was hurt and injured? How did she know something seriously awful had happened to John and no one else knew that morning? Good. Spoiler alert, big hint, she did it.
And one of them very recently before I started dating John.
Clip 16, please.
We'll backtrack later. Let's start at 3:4. So who are you with? I'm with Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts, and Carrie Roberts is Ford Explorer. And I'm in the back, leaning over the front two seats. Carrie's driving and Jen's in the passenger seat. And I've described this to everyone, so you've probably heard this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heat that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him. And the fear of what I was going to see is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. The anticipation of what is awaiting me was as extreme a feeling. I wouldn't say it was as extreme a feeling as the grief of realizing what happened to him.
Makes no sense. You know, to use Alan Jackson's technique, why would she be expecting John O'Keefe to be on the side of the road injured unless she was the one who hit him? It's not a normal thing to throw out a body onto the front lawn, but she's sure she's going to find him on the front lawn. Makes no sense unless the only way it makes sense is if Karen Reed's guilty and she's lying. And look at the things that let's listen to this again, but look at the things that she compares John to. A bush, a fire hydrant, a dog, all dehumanizing him. A strange lump, I think she says. Hold on, I may be wrong about that, but that's what I thought she heard. Let's listen one more time.
We'll backtrack later. Let's start at 3:4. So who are you with? I'm with Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts, and Carrie Roberts is Ford Explorer. And I'm in the back, leaning over the front two seats. Carrie's driving and Jen's in the passenger seat. And I've described this to everyone, so you've probably heard this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heat that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him. And the fear of what I was going to see is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. The anticipation of what is awaiting me was as extreme a feeling. I wouldn't say it was as extreme a feeling as the grief of realizing what happened to him.
And finally, clip 17, please.
We need to see the court before this one's played.
All right, hold that, please.
I mean, is he going to play?
You solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give.
So I guess they got that sustained. Never got played. So was he trying to play either it's Jen McCabe going down or I'm going down? And that got sustained, because that to me seems like the logical thing that they were going to play there. No? Thanks, Jill. It needs context. Do you think that's one of the things that needs context? What's the context that would make that any better? Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Dean Walker. Nice to see you. Hope the grandbaby's doing well. Yeah. Zero empathy. And what grief? Where's the grief? Where's the grief? We haven't seen any grief. No grief. What grief? What grief? She's never had any grief. All right, that does it for tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Please hit the thumbs up, support the channel, become a Patreon member, get access to content you won't get anywhere else. Send me a Venmo, buy me a coffee. Links are in the description of this episode. Please share this episode. Leave me a comment. I do read all of them and get a lot out of them. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, Jackson's fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet.